She felt the tremor in her fingers before she even realized she was shaking. Not from fear. Not exactly. Not yet. The silver crown of moonflowers was slipping again, petals damp with sweat. She pressed it back down with numb hands, her breath shallow, like she couldn't pull enough air into her lungs. The temple was too quiet. That kind of holy silence that didn't feel peaceful, just heavy, dense. Like something unsaid was crawling across the marble floor, unseen. Outside, autumn wind howled through the pine trees like it knew what was about to happen. Inside, candlelight flickered against stained glass windows and the scent of sage clung to every inch of the air, thick and suffocating. Lyra Duskwind stood alone in the corridor behind the grand altar, hidden by a velvet curtain. One step forward, and she'd be someone's queen. Someone's trophy. Someone's mistake. Today was the day she was supposed to become bonded to Caelan Thorne, the Lycan King of the Western Realms, a man who had ruled with a silent fist and storm-gray eyes since she was 16, a man who had kissed her only once, touched her only once, and then never looked her way again. The handmaid's voice came from behind her. "They're ready, my lady." Lyra didn't answer. She wasn't ready. She wasn't anything. Just a girl dressed in silver silk and moonlight, about to hand her soul over to a stranger who already owned too much. She reached for the music box on the dressing table, a small wooden thing, carved with wolves and vines and a crescent moon. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her head. "True strength doesn't come from claws, little one. It comes from the heart that refuses to break." She clicked it open. A soft lullaby drifted out. She let herself listen for 3 seconds, 4, and then she closed it, because the music made her feel something, and she couldn't afford that. Not today. She stepped through the curtain. The grand temple doors opened and the music started. Slow, haunting, ancient. The binding hymn. Every step forward felt like a lie. Hundreds of eyes turned to her, but she didn't look at them. Didn't look at the nobles wrapped in velvet and suspicion. Didn't look at the priestesses. Didn't even look at the throne. Only when she reached the altar did she lift her head. And there he was, Caelan Thorne, the king, her king. He stood still as stone in his ceremonial armor, trimmed in black and silver. His hair, thick and dark, brushed his shoulders. His mouth was a flat line, and his eyes were ice. Not once did they soften when they landed on her. Not once did they flicker with recognition. Not even for a second. And she knew. Something was wrong. Elder Isolde's voice rang out in the silence. "Under the witness of the moon and the honor of the blood, do you accept this bond, King Caelan Thorne?" A beat, then another, and then his voice. "I do not." The words hit like a slap. Lyra froze. Her heart stumbled. Gasps filled the hall like crashing waves. Whispers twisted through the air like smoke. The elder stepped back. "Your Majesty?" Caelan turned, not to Lyra, not to the woman he was about to publicly destroy, but to the crowd. "This union," he said, cold and clear, "was arranged under false assumptions." Lyra's throat burned. Her hands curled at her sides. "She carries a scent that marks her unfit to bear the royal bloodline," he continued. "The moon has spoken. I will not complete this ceremony." She couldn't feel her legs. She couldn't breathe. She had kissed this man. She had given him her body under the stars weeks ago. The moon had chosen that night. She knew it had. And now here he was, denouncing her like a disease, throwing her away like ash in the wind. She didn't cry. Instead, she stepped forward. Slowly, one deliberate step, then another. She reached up, pulled the flower crown from her hair and placed it gently on the altar. "I see," she said. Her voice didn't shake. Then may the moon protect us all from the cost of your blindness." And she walked away. Walked out of the temple, out of the palace, out of the life that was never really hers. She disappeared that night. Took nothing but a cloak, her grandmother's music box, and the secret growing inside her. Because Caelan Thorne, the king who rejected her at the altar, had already left something behind. Inside her, 2 heartbeats, 2 lives, twins. His heirs. They would never know rejection. They would never be pawns. They would never need a crown to know their worth. She ran, into the forests, across rivers, through forgotten lands where the law of kings meant nothing, and when the time came, under a red moon and alone, she brought them into the world, a boy and a girl, eyes like winter storms, souls like fire, Ash and Kayla. She raised them in secret, trained them in silence, loved them louder than any throne could promise. For years the world forgot her, but she never forgot the man who shattered her before she could become whole. Never forgot the look in his eyes when he saw her as unworthy, and she never once let herself believe he'd come looking, until one night her son woke up screaming. Her daughter whispered of silver thrones and voices calling her name, and she knew. The bond was waking. He was coming. Hit like, subscribe, and drop where you're watching from in the comments. The scream didn't sound human. It tore through the trees like it didn't care who heard. Lyra dropped the basket of dried sage and ran, barefoot, heart in her throat. The scream came again. It was Kayla, her daughter, 12 years old and strong for her age. But this wasn't a skinned knee. This was terror. This was something ancient. Lyra's legs moved faster. Her wolf rose beneath her skin, snarling for release. Not yet. Not unless she had to. Not here. She cleared the last bend of the forest trail, and there, just ahead, was her child. Kayla stood in a ring of stone, barefoot in the dirt, eyes wide and glowing gold. Not the soft shimmer of play. No, this was the burn of instinct. Ash was beside her, one hand on her shoulder. Calm, but barely. His nostrils flared. His spine was rigid. Both of them were facing the trees. Not her. Something else. Lyra followed their gaze. A figure stood just beyond the tree line. Black cloak, hood up, hands at their sides. Too still, too confident, too close. Her blood turned ice cold. She stepped between her children and the figure. One motion, shield first. Mother before wolf. "Who are you?" she called. The figure didn't answer, didn't move. But the wind shifted, and then she smelled it. Not human, not animal, royal. She didn't wait. She turned, grabbed the twins by the wrists. "Go!" "But—" "Run! Now!" She shoved them hard toward the path behind her. The one that led to the cliff. The hidden trail. They went. No questions. No hesitation. Training kicked in. Survival instinct. The drills they'd practiced 100 times. Lyra turned back toward the cloaked figure. But they were gone. Vanished. No scent trail. No sound. Just ash. A faint trace of it in the air. Burnt herbs and dark magic. Her heart pounded as she sprinted after her kids, dodging low branches, feeling time squeeze around her like a trap. They were too close. She'd been careful for over a decade. Moved 3 times. Changed names. Lived like a ghost. But now they'd found her. And worse, they'd found them. 10 minutes later, they were at the edge of the cliffs. The ocean below roared like it had something to say. The sky was gray and heavy. "We go now," Lyra said, breath tight. "Back route. No stopping." Ash handed her the small leather pouch from his belt. Emergency pack. Bless the moon, he remembered. She took it, shoving it into her own bag with her vials and charms. Kayla looked up at her. Was that one of them? Lyra didn't answer. She didn't need to. Kayla's face hardened. Ash glanced behind them. Then he said it. He's coming, isn't he? Lyra blinked fast. The salt in the air stung more than it should have. She looked at her children, her twins, the only pure thing she'd ever done right, and then she gave them the only answer she could. Yes. The tunnel was hidden under a collapsed shrine near the cliff's edge. Few knew about it. Fewer would think to look. They crawled in one at a time. Ash first, then Kayla. Then Lyra sealing the hatch behind her. Darkness swallowed them. But this was their way out. Their final route. No more stalling. They'd trained for this. Dreamed of a day that might never come. But it had. And now the forest wasn't safe. The coast wasn't safe. Only forward. Only north. Only what she hadn't wanted to do. Only what she'd sworn she'd never do again. Ask for help. They emerged 2 miles inland near the old riverbed. The children were silent, focused. Lyra pulled them close. There's a lighthouse up the ridge. You remember the signal? 3 nods, 3 whistles, 1 long, 2 short. That was the call. She scanned the sky, fog rolling in, perfect cover, but also dangerous. They move, through trees, over rocks, past the half-buried stone markers that once belonged to a forgotten village. Lyra's mind raced. How had they found them? Was it the music box? No, that was gone, lost during the last escape. Was it the children's scent? Their energy? Or something else? Something darker? At the lighthouse, the air was still. Old, broken. Windows cracked, the smell of salt and rust clinging to its bones. They slipped inside. Lyra locked the door behind them and pulled them into the back room where they'd stashed emergency supplies. Kayla shivered. Ash sat against the wall, arms around his knees. Silence settled in, heavy and raw. Then Kayla whispered, "He's dreaming of us again." Lyra's heart clenched. She turned slowly. "When?" "Last night," said Ash. "And now, while he's awake, I feel him watching. It's like his mind is reaching." Lyra sank to the floor. This wasn't a scout. This wasn't a random search. Kayla knew. He knew. And he was coming. Not with letters, not with guards, not with excuses, with purpose, with claiming in his eyes. She looked at her children. Could she run again? Where would they go? Would they ever be free if they always ran? What kind of future was that? What kind of life? Ash spoke first. "If he finds us, do we go with him?" The question hit like a blade. "No," Lyra said. "Not unless we choose to." "But what if he's not here to hurt us?" Kayla whispered. "What if he wants to know us now?" Lyra's chest ached. 12 years of running. 12 years of fear, of building walls to keep them safe. But they were getting older, stronger, and maybe it was time to stop hiding. Outside, the wind howled again. Low, warning, wild. And somewhere, miles away, a royal ship was cutting through cold waters, headed north, headed toward them, toward the truth. Toward the twins, toward the woman he once left at the altar, and the family she built in the ashes. There was blood in the water. Not real blood. Not yet. But the ocean tasted different that morning. Ash stood on the cliff's edge, staring down at the rocks below. The mist rolled thick and white, curling like fingers around his ankles. The tide was rising, fast, and something was moving with it. He didn't know how he knew. He just knew. Something was coming, and it wanted them. Inside the lighthouse, Lyra crushed dried rowan berries with shaking hands. She hadn't slept. Couldn't. Every sound in the dark sounded like footsteps. Every shadow could be a scout in disguise. The herbs weren't for healing this time. They were for hiding. She packed small linen satchels, one for each of them. Ward bags, meant to suppress scent trails. Confuse trackers, mask energy fields, old magic, bloodline magic, and it might not be enough. Ash stepped into the doorway behind her. "He's in the harbor." She stopped. Her hands went still. "Are you sure?" Ash nodded once. "He hasn't docked yet, but he's close. I can feel it. That bond, that damn invisible thread that ran between bloodlines, especially twin bloodlines. It was pulling again. Her son was sensing his father's presence, like a sixth sense made of bones and instinct. Lyra swallowed hard and tied off the last satchel. "How close is close?" she asked. Ash didn't answer. He didn't have to. Because just then, the lighthouse window flashed. Not lightning, a flare, a green flare. Signal fire from the harbor. A royal vessel had arrived. Kayla stirred awake in the corner, sensing the shift in energy. Her wolf rose beneath her skin before she even opened her eyes. "He's here," she whispered. "I dreamed it again. The throne room. But this time, we were in it." Lyra turned sharply. "What do you mean?" Kayla rubbed her eyes, her expression dazed but serious. "I was standing beside him, in front of a crowd, and Ash was next to me. Everyone was bowing. We were wearing the crest." Ash stiffened. "What crest?" "The silver moon and the black wolf. Kaylin's royal seal." Lyra felt the world shift sideways. "No," she said. "That was just a dream." But she didn't believe it. Not really, not when their dreams had been coming true for weeks. She reached for her coat, shoving the ward satchels into the twins' bags. "Get your boots, both of you, now." They moved fast. No panic, just precision. They'd rehearsed this a dozen times. Pack light. Stay low. Stay silent. Avoid open roads. They were headed north, deeper into free territory. The woods would cover them. The marshes would slow trackers. But even as they ran, Lyra could feel it. That pull. Not just her children's bond with Kaylin. Her own. She hated that it still existed. 12 years hadn't erased it. It had just buried it under grief, rage, and survival. But now it was stirring, waking, and she didn't know if that meant Kaylin was near, or if he was calling her. They made it to the edge of the Vale by nightfall. The forest here was older, wilder. The trees weren't just trees. They were watchers, guardians, silent judges of those who entered their realm. They set up camp near a half-frozen stream. No fire, just warmth from body heat and furs. Lyra couldn't sleep. She sat against a tree, staring at the sky through the leaves. Kayla was curled against her brother. Her breaths slow and even. But Ash was awake, staring at the stars with eyes wide open. "I don't hate him," he said softly. Lyra's chest tightened. "You don't know him." "I do," Ash replied. "I see him, in my dreams, in mirrors, in the way I walk when I'm angry. I don't want to, but I do." Lyra looked down at her hands. They were shaking again. "He rejected us," she said. "Rejected me, without blinking, without asking. That kind of cruelty leaves a scar you can't see." Ash nodded. "I don't forgive him. I want to understand." And what terrified her most wasn't the thought of Kaylin finding them. It was the possibility that her children might not run, that they might look him in the eye and stay. That night, Kayla dreamed again. She stood in a moonlit courtyard, a white stone balcony beneath her feet. Below, hundreds of wolves were howling. Beside her, Kaylin. He knelt and held out a pendant. It was their pack's crest, but there was a crack in it, a jagged break through the center. She reached out, and just before she touched it, she woke up, and the first thing she heard was the sound of something moving in the woods. Footsteps. Not animal, deliberate, human, and getting closer. Ash held his breath. Kayla's nails curled into the dirt, and Lyra, her wolf already rising to her skin, realized something chilling. They weren't being followed. They were being herded. Kayla's hand clamped over her brother's mouth. Not a sound, not a breath. She crouched low in the underbrush, heart thundering behind her ribs. Just 20 feet away, boots crunched softly over fallen pine needles. One set, then another, and then a voice. Low, calm. She was here. I smell her. Ash looked at his sister. His eyes weren't scared, just alert, focused, ready. They'd trained for this. But drills in the woods and whispered escape plans didn't prepare you for the real thing. Not for the way the air went cold. Not for the way the forest shifted. Kayla had never felt the trees go silent like that, like even the wind was hiding. Up the ridge, Lyra crouched behind a wide-bellied spruce. She had her blade in one hand, a sleep dart in the other. Not yet. The guards were fast, trained, Eastern-born. She could hear the difference in their gait, the precise steps, the way they checked each blind spot before moving. Royal enforcers, no doubt, and they weren't searching. They were tracking. Her. Them. Her blood. 2 men moved into the clearing. Black cloaks, leather armor reinforced with silver fasteners. Not for protection, for control. Silver worked as a deterrent against rogue shifters. These weren't scouts. They were retrievers. Lyra narrowed her eyes. They weren't going to retrieve anything. Not tonight, not ever. She flicked her wrist, launched the dart. A soft thwip, then impact. One man went down hard, a whisper of a grunt before darkness took him. The second turned, saw her. His amber eyes flared. Kalen's mark. The King's elite. She didn't hesitate. She ran. Downhill, Ash bolted from cover, grabbing Kayla's wrist. We move, now! But Mom's making noise on purpose. They took off, weaving through ferns and roots. No talking, no backtracking. Every move was mapped in their minds. They hit the creek bed, then took the left fork. That would take them to the glen. But something felt wrong. The air was too heavy, like it was watching them. Ash stopped mid-step. Kayla slammed into him. What? He pointed. Across the creek, standing perfectly still in the trees, was a wolf. Midnight black, eyes glowing. It wasn't breathing. It wasn't blinking. It was just there, watching them. Kayla's heart dropped. That's him. Ash didn't answer. He couldn't, because his body was already reacting. Something ancient inside him. Something wild. He felt it in his bones, like gravity was changing direction. The wolf didn't move. It didn't need to. Its presence filled the entire forest. Lyra emerged from the thicket, blood on her blade, sweat on her brow. She found her kids in the glen, frozen. She followed their gaze and saw the wolf, her throat closed. She hadn't seen him in 12 years. Not since the altar, not since the rejection, but her soul knew him. Her wolf knew him. Kalen. He shifted slowly. The transformation wasn't brutal or violent. It was quiet, controlled, elegant even. 1 second a beast. The next, a man. Still tall, still dangerous, but not the cold king she remembered. His hair was longer, silver threaded through the black. His eyes, same storm gray, but tired. So damn tired. He stepped forward, hands open, bare chest rising with deep, steady breaths. "I'm not here to take," he said. No one answered. "I'm not here to hurt you," he added. Still silence. He looked at Kayla, then at Ash, then at Lyra. "I'm here because they're mine," he said softly. "And I never should have left you." Lyra's heart was slamming. Not from fear, from fury. From the betrayal of old wounds trying to scar over again. He had no right to say their names. He had no right to look at them like that, like he'd earned it. But her children, they didn't run. They didn't hide. Ash stepped forward, just one pace, and Kaylin looked stunned, like he was staring at a ghost. You've grown." Ash nodded once. "You've watched me grow. In your dreams. Haven't you?" Kaylin's eyes flickered. Kayla's voice was quiet, but firm. "I saw your throne. I heard them chanting. They want you gone." He didn't deny it. "They think I'm weak without an heir," he said. "But they were wrong." He looked at them again. "You're stronger than I ever was." He turned his eyes to Lyra. "And that's because of you." She wanted to speak, to scream, to tell him what it had cost her, being hunted, hiding, lying to her own children just to keep them safe. But she couldn't move. Because Kaylin wasn't posturing. He wasn't here to control or command. He looked broken, like a man who'd built his kingdom on stone, only to realize he'd buried his heart beneath it, and now he'd come to dig it out. But Lyra wasn't sure it was still there. The wind shifted. Kayla's head snapped up. Ash followed. "They're not alone." Lyra's breath caught. "They brought others?" Kaylin turned sharply. His shoulders squared. His wolf rose behind his eyes. "No," he said. "I didn't." Branches cracked in the distance. Too many footsteps. Wrong direction. Whoever was coming wasn't sent by the king. And that meant one thing. Someone else is hunting the twins. The trees answered first. Not with rustling. With silence. The kind of silence that grips your throat and squeezes. Kaylin's eyes went sharp. Wolf sharp. Ash and Kayla turned in sync, every hair on their arms standing straight. Lyra didn't breathe. She felt it. Not just danger. Something worse. Recognition. "They followed you," she said, low, biting. "You said you came alone." Kaylin's voice was steel. "I did." "Then who—" A sharp whistle split the night, high, echoing, coded. Kaylin's face paled. "That's not mine." Lyra grabbed her children, pulling them behind her. "They're not scouts." Kaylin stepped forward. "No, they're assassins." Ash froze. "For us?" "For me," Kaylin said. "And for what I've kept hidden for too long." A second whistle. Shorter. Closer. Then 3 figures stepped out of the tree line. One of them wore the crest of the Stormwolf house. Dominic's men. Lyra's gut twisted. The cousin. The rival. The one who always wanted the crown but never had the bloodline to claim it. Until now. Until the twins. "Kaylin Thorne," the lead man said, calm as death. "By order of the Eastern Council, you are to be detained for breach of royal command." Kaylin's jaw locked. "The council serves at my will." "Not anymore." Ash tensed. "They're staging a coup." Lyra could barely think. "They followed your scent," she whispered. "They knew you'd lead them to us." "No," Kaylin said. "They didn't follow me." He turned slowly, scanning the trees. They followed someone else. A 4th figure emerged. This one, not cloaked, not armed, but familiar. Her stomach dropped. Merrick, the man who once served her uncle. The one she trusted during her first escape. The one who knew her hiding routes. Lyra stepped forward. "You sold us out." Merrick didn't flinch. "I warned you back then. Secrets don't stay buried forever." Behind him, more footsteps. 5, maybe 6. She couldn't count. She couldn't breathe. The twins stood back to back, bodies low, balanced on instinct. Ash bared his teeth. "If they try to take us, they'll try more than that," Kayla finished. Kaylin moved in front of them. No hesitation. No royal posturing. Just a father. For the first time. Lyra stepped up beside him. Her voice was steady, cold. "You don't get to protect them now." "I'm not protecting them," Kaylin said quietly. "I'm standing with them." The air snapped. Then came the rush. 3 attackers moved at once. Lyra was faster. Her wolf took over mid-leap, silver claws slashing across flesh. Ash shifted next, barely human anymore. He tackled the nearest man, driving him into a tree with bone-cracking force. Kayla ran straight through one of the flanking guards, leaving nothing but torn cloth and a grunt of air. Kaylin met the last 2 head-on. No hesitation, no fear. The full force of an alpha in a king's body. But Merrick didn't move. He just watched, smiling, waiting. Lyra turned, blood on her teeth. "You wanted a war? Fine. But it's not with us." Merrick stepped forward. "It never was." His hand dipped into his cloak and came out holding a vial of blood. Not just any blood. Royal blood. Lyra's. Stolen. Somehow. Years ago. Maybe from the last place they stayed. Maybe from the old music box she thought she'd lost. But it was hers. She could feel it. And with it they could track the twins anywhere. Mask any scent. Break any ward. Kaylin's voice broke through the rising wind. "How did you get that?" Merrick just smiled. "You'd be amazed what a grieving Luna will trade for protection after 12 years of silence." Lyra felt her knees weaken. No, that couldn't... Was he talking about her old pack? Her aunt? Had someone betrayed her again? Ash growled. "What is it?" She turned to her children, heart splitting. "They don't want to kill us." "They want to bind you." The last figure stepped into the clearing. She wasn't cloaked. She wore a crown. Not royal. Not Lycan. High-blooded witchcraft. The storm crested. Wind howled. The trees groaned. Kaylin's face turned white. "Isolde?" Lyra's voice cracked. "The priestess?" "The one who performed our ceremony," Kaylin said. "The one who refused to," Lyra whispered. And now she was here. With their blood. With their past. With every lie laid bare, but... Kayla's voice cut through it all. "She's not just here for us." They turned. The girl's eyes were glowing. Bright. Blinding. "She's here for what we can become." Lyra stepped back. She looked at her daughter. Her voice steady. Her body shaking. "What do you mean?" And Kayla answered without blinking. "She's not trying to steal our power. She's trying to awaken it." Kayla couldn't breathe. Not because she was afraid, because she was burning. Inside. From the chest out. Like something ancient had cracked wide open in her ribcage. And whatever had been asleep inside her was now fully awake. The witch, Isolde, watched her like a fire she couldn't wait to walk into. She wasn't casting. Not yet. She didn't need to. The magic was already here. Kayla was the spell. Ash staggered backward, grabbing a low tree limb to steady himself. His vision blurred. The forest doubled, then tripled. He saw 3 timelines at once. One where he ran, one where he stayed, one where he died. He shut his eyes. But it didn't stop. The visions flooded him. Sights he'd never lived, choices he hadn't made. And in all of them, Kayla stood at his side. Or she didn't. And when she didn't, the world burned. Lyra reached out, fingers trembling. "Kayla, talk to me." But the girl didn't answer. She was somewhere else. Her eyes were glowing brighter now, almost white. Her hands lifted without permission, drawn upward as if pulled by invisible threads. Wind swirled around her like a cyclone, leaves and ash spinning in a perfect circle. Kaylin took a step forward, voice low. "She's manifesting. Raw, no filter, no anchor." Isolde smiled. "She's more than a shifter." Lyra's voice cracked. "She's a child." "She's a prophecy," Isolde whispered. Suddenly, Kayla gasped and dropped to her knees. The wind vanished. The glow disappeared. But something was left behind. A smell. Not ash, not pine. Something older. Feral. Royal blood, mixed with divine spark. Power that belonged to neither wolf nor witch. Something that hadn't walked this land in over a century. Kayla looked up slowly, voice hoarse. "I saw him." Lyra crouched beside her. "Kaylin?" Kayla shook her head. "Not our father." She turned to her twin. Ash nodded. "I saw him too." The name fell from their mouths together. Dominic. He was on a throne that didn't belong to him, wearing armor that didn't fit right, giving orders that made the pack bleed. Isolde's face darkened. "The bonds reached full resonance," she said. "They're seeing what's coming. Their wolves are crossing timelines. That kind of sight only happens when fate is circling a crown." Kaylin's mouth was tight. "You said fate didn't matter, that it could be rewritten." Isolde looked at him. "I lied." Lyra stood. "You came to awaken them. Why now? Why here?" Isolde didn't answer her. She turned to Kayla. "You've seen the fracture, haven't you?" Kayla nodded. "The silver crest, cracked in half. And what was behind it?" Kayla closed her eyes. Her voice was distant. "A wolf, bound in chains. But it wasn't growling. It was waiting." Isolde stepped back. Her eyes glittered. "You were born to break that chain. Both of you." She turned to Ash. "And you—" But she didn't finish the sentence, because he stepped forward before she could. "No more riddles, no more dreams. What do you want from us?" Isolde didn't flinch. "I want what your father never had the strength to keep. I want a future that doesn't end in your blood spilled on a throne room floor." The forest behind her cracked. Another flare. Yellow. Enemies approaching. But not Dominic's men. Someone else. Lyra spun. "Who else is coming?" Kaylin drew his blade. "I didn't summon backup." Isolde's voice dropped. "It's not yours. It's the court." A dark pulse rippled through the ground. Magic. Heavy. Familiar. Wards collapsing. Territory lines breaking. The northern border was falling. Kayla's voice was calm. Too calm. "They want to crown someone before the full moon." Lyra turned, confused. "Who?" Kayla met her gaze, and said the one thing Lyra feared most. "They don't care who wears the crown, as long as it's not me." Ash turned to his sister, his voice barely a whisper. "Then we need to decide fast. Do we fight for it, or burn it down?" The message was blood, not a letter, not a scroll, just blood, painted across the stones near the northern creek. A word scrawled in streaks of crimson that hadn't dried yet. "Return." Ash crouched beside it. Didn't speak. Didn't blink. He didn't need to. The message wasn't just for their mother. It wasn't just for Kayla. It was for both of them. Kayla stood behind him, the wind pulling her hair back. She wasn't afraid. She was done being afraid, but Something about this felt different, colder. Not Dominic, not Roman. This wasn't about power. This was about possession. They're marking territory now, Ash muttered. Not theirs to mark, Kayla said. He stood. They think it is. Her hands clenched. Let's prove them wrong. Behind them, the creek kept running, unbothered, unknowing. But under that calm, water wasn't just water anymore. Something old stirred beneath it, something watching. Back in the village, Roman paced in the council hall. He'd read the message, too. He knew that handwriting, knew that spellcraft. Victor stood near the hearth, quiet, arms crossed, face grim. He's trying to provoke them, Victor said. Force their wolves out before the full moon. He's testing them, Roman said. Trying to see if they're strong enough to be worth killing. The door slammed open. Lyra walked in, cloak dripping with rain. Don't play politics with my kids. Roman's jaw tightened. I don't intend to. Then stop pretending this is about the throne, she said. This is about him, about Dominic, about the fact that he sees them as unfinished business. Victor looked between them. What if he's right? What do you mean? Lyra snapped. Victor stepped closer. What if Dominic doesn't want to kill them because they threaten the throne? He paused. What if he wants to kill them because they were the last thing you took from him? Silence. Roman's face went white. The room dropped 10 degrees. No, Lyra said. That was never his right. But he believed it was, Victor said. He believed you were promised to him before Roman ever claimed you. Ash and Kayla walked into the room just as those words fell. Neither said anything for a long time. Then Kayla said quietly, So this was never about politics. It's about obsession. Ash looked at Roman, then at their mother. So what do we do? Roman finally spoke, voice steady. Eyes sharp. We show him you're not pawns. You're predators. That night, the twins walked to the border stone. Alone. No guards, no spell wards, just them, and whatever waited beyond the line. They could smell it before they saw him. Rotting pine, burned fur, cold metal. Dominic. He stepped into the moonlight without ceremony. No crown, no armor, just a worn black coat, and a knife, hung low at his hip. Ash didn't blink. Kayla didn't flinch, but both felt it. That low vibration in the chest, that pull, the kind wolves feel before a challenge, before a kill. Dominic smiled. I see the blood runs true. Ash's jaw tensed. You shouldn't be here. I'm exactly where I should be. He looked at Kayla. And so are you. She didn't respond, not with words. With her eyes, she answered everything. I'm not yours. I was never yours. And if you think this ends with us kneeling, you picked the wrong heirs. Dominic moved one step forward, and then everything exploded. Wards shattered, wind howled, the stone cracked, not from magic, from what was under it. Ash grabbed Kayla, pulling her back. But too late. The earth opened, and something pulled them under, not into a pit, not into soil, into a memory, a place out of time. Kayla opened her eyes and saw a throne room, but not Roman's, older, made of ice and ash and moonlight, and seated at the throne, a wolf, black as midnight, eyes of gold, chained, still, waiting. Ash appeared beside her, dazed. Where are we? Kayla didn't answer. She was already stepping forward, because the wolf raised its head and spoke. You must choose. Will they claim the throne to stop Dominic? Or release the chained one waiting in the shadows? One choice breaks everything. The other burns the world. The chained wolf rose. But the chains didn't break. They melted. silver liquefied into mist, swallowed by the floor of the memory. Ash stumbled backward. Kayla didn't. She was too transfixed. By the eyes, by the voice, by the strange, terrifying recognition. It knew her. And it wasn't just a memory, it was alive, buried somewhere deep beneath the territories. Waiting. "You must choose," it said again. The words were rough, ancient, cracked with age, but they shook her bones. Ash stepped between them. "Choose what?" The wolf's gaze shifted, and suddenly, he was no longer a beast. He stood, a man, cloaked in black, hair like midnight, and a jagged scar running down the side of his neck. But the eyes stayed gold, and in them, Kayla saw truth, brutal, irrefutable. This was the first Lycan King, the one from the old stories, the one who vanished, the one who ruled before there were packs. "Choose the crown," he said, "and you bind yourselves to the laws of men and bloodlines." Ash narrowed his eyes. "And if we don't?" The man smiled. There was nothing kind in it. "Then you return to the wild, and the wild takes you whole." Kayla felt her stomach twist. She didn't know how to answer. She didn't know what any of it meant. But then the memory began to collapse. Stones shook, the sky cracked, voices screamed from outside the dream, calling their names. Roman, Lyra, Victor. The real world was trying to pull them back. But Kayla couldn't leave yet. "Wait!" she said, lunging forward. "Who are you to us?" The Wolf King reached out and placed his palm on her forehead. And the moment he touched her, she saw it. Everything. Not as flashes, as truth. Her mother, running through the snow, barely 20, pregnant, alone, a hidden scroll in her pack, something even Lyra had forgotten. A bloodline not from Roman, but from before his house ruled the East. Kayla stumbled. Ash caught her before she hit the ground. "What did he show you?" he asked. Kayla looked up. Her mouth opened, but she couldn't speak. Not yet. Not here. The memory shattered. They woke in the grass, outside the border stone. Dawn had broken. Roman stood over them, relief and rage in his eyes. "You're safe," he breathed, then grabbed Ash's arm. "What did you see?" Kayla sat up. Her eyes burned gold. "I saw the truth," she said. Victor's face went pale. "You saw the Wolf King." Ash nodded slowly. "We saw him," he whispered, "and he knows us." Kayla stood. The morning wind tore at her cloak. "He gave us a choice." She looked at her mother, then at Roman, then past them both, to the forest. "To take your crown, or take back everything that came before it." Roman stared at her. "What are you saying?" Kayla's voice was cold, steady. "I'm saying the throne isn't your legacy anymore." Ash stepped beside her. "It's ours." The wind roared. In the distance, the sound of howls rose. Not from the village, not from the eastern court, from the deep woods, from wolves that hadn't run in 1,000 years. And still, one question burned louder than the rest. If the twins were never just Roman's bloodline, then what exactly were they born to become? They were meant to inherit the throne. But what if they were made to break it? Blood, smoke, howls. The forest was burning. Not the eastern capital, not the outer villages, the heartlands, where only royals could tread, where secrets had slept for centuries. Ash and Kayla stood at the edge of it, watching flames climb the oldest trees. Their father's crest fluttered in the heat. His guards lay scattered behind them, groaning, defeated. And in the center of it all, Roman, kneeling, alone, defeated. Not by battle, but by truth. Kayla stepped forward first. Her voice didn't shake. "You lied." Roman raised his head. The fire reflected in his eyes. Gold turned orange, glowing with regret. "Not to harm you," he said hoarsely. Ash came up beside her. "No," he growled. "Just to use us." Victor had run. When the twins returned from the Wolf King's memory, when they spoke the truth, Victor had fled like a coward. He'd known. All along. The true bloodline wasn't Roman's. The prophecy wasn't about power. It was about return. Return to a time before crowns, before politics, when wolves followed the moon, not a throne. "The court is gone," Roman said, his voice raw. "The moment you spoke, they saw it. The mark on your skin, the old tongue in your voice." Kayla touched her chest. The moonstone glowed beneath her shirt. She hadn't noticed before, but it had burned ever since the Wolf King touched her. "You called us your heirs," she said, "but we were never meant to inherit your world." Ash looked past his father. The fire was dying, but the howls, they weren't. Dozens now, maybe more. From beyond the capital, from outside the court. From the wild. "They're answering us," he whispered. Kayla nodded. "They know it's time." Roman looked between them, pain clear in his features. "Then it's over?" Kayla crouched beside him. "No," she said softly. "It's just beginning." They left him there, not in chains, not in exile, just forgotten, because this wasn't about revenge. It was about choosing the wild over the throne, and the wild was ready. 3 nights later, the moon rose full over the highlands. Ash and Kayla stood at the cliff's edge, no longer hidden, not in human clothes, not in disguise. Wolves again. Below them, packs gathered. Some had traveled across frozen rivers, some across borders they weren't even allowed to name. But they came. Because the children of the moon had returned, not as heirs, as something older, as something free. Ash looked at his sister. "Are you ready?" Kayla didn't smile. She didn't have to. "We were born for this. The throne is empty. The kingdom is watching. But only the moon knows what comes next." The snow came early that year. High on the ridge where the wild packs gathered, a light dusting fell across the earth, like the breath of the moon goddess herself. It clung to the stone altar Kayla and Ash had rebuilt, where no crown sat, no throne, only flame and ash and memory. Kayla stood alone beneath the stars. The others were quiet now. The packs had scattered again after the calling. No declarations had been made. No titles claimed. That wasn't what this was about anymore. It wasn't about a court, or a kingdom, or a legacy. It was about the blood. The old kind. The kind that remembered before names and bloodlines mattered. A wind whispered through the trees behind her. She didn't turn. She didn't have to. Ash stepped up beside her, silent in his approach. "The last scouts are back," he said softly. "Victor's gone, vanished into the human realm. Roman's in seclusion. He won't rise again." Kayla nodded once. "And the packs?" "They're waiting." She exhaled slowly. There was no crown, no council, no announcement. Still, something had shifted. You could feel it in the way the wolves looked at her now, not with obedience, not even loyalty, with understanding, the kind that didn't need words, the kind that said, "We heard you, we see you, we choose you." Ash pulled the old moonstone pendant from around his neck and placed it on the altar. Kayla did the same. The stones pulsed faintly in the cold night air. Once, they had glowed with power. Now, they glowed with peace. They didn't need them anymore. The real strength had never come from enchanted relics. It had come from choosing each other again and again, in every village, every escape, every time their mother said, "Run, but never hide from who you are." Kayla stepped away first. She looked at her brother, snow clinging to his dark lashes, and whispered the words that had echoed since they were cubs. "We're not what they made us." Ash's eyes didn't waver. "No," he said. "We're what came before." Far off, in the deepest part of the forest, a lone wolf howled, long and low and ancient. Another answered, then another, until the whole night rang with it. Not a call to war, a call home. Somewhere, beyond the fire lines and palaces, the Lycan King sat alone in his ruined court. The scent of lavender still faint in the stones, and wondered, not what he had lost, but what he might still learn, if the wild ever forgave. Because the wild never forgets, the blood remembers, and the moon always watches.